Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Green Arrow FPL podcast from Fantasy Football Hub. Just when we thought things couldn't get any more bonkers, Gameweek 9 and the Carabao Cup said, "Hold my beer," and delivered another masterclass of FPL shithousery and uncertainty ahead of Gameweek 10. My name is Fergi, and I'm here as usual with Rich Clarke. Rich, how are you? And what colour was your arrow in Gameweek 9?
Hi Fergie, hi everyone. I'm well. To start with, I've obviously just weathered the UK budget yesterday, which was a little bit of a kind of personal challenge for pretty much all of us. But I'm through that, and I'm unfortunately another red last week. Not as catastrophic as the week before, but still a healthy drop down to I think one of my lowest ever rankings, 3.7 something million. I'm going to start, maybe we should consider switching these off for a while, but we're out there every week, putting them up there, red or green. And it's not going well at the moment. Something needs to change, mate. I didn't do anything wrong. I think my transfer worked out. I sold Saka for Palmer. Thought could go Foden because obviously had that good fixture against Southampton. Decided not to go that. There were still flags over Son, and obviously, if you remember, there was jeopardy with Saka right up until the deadline, whether or not he was going to play again. I didn't want any more of that for a second week running, so I took the opportunity to bring in Palmer. I thought his price would rocket, which is already up 0.2 on the week. And I think by the time we get to game week 12, which is the next sort of hop-on point for people, I think it'll probably be 11.2, 11.3 million. So quite happy to own Palmer. But alas, his points alone, his 10-pointer was not enough for a green arrow because Saka did duly play. I think most of us thought he probably would. And he scored 9 himself. And of course, Salah as well in that Arsenal match also scored the equalising goal and got 10 points himself. So really, there wasn't much gain on hopping on and off the premiums last week, but there could be this week. I mean, the variance is right there, isn't there? And the only other good thing to say about the week was I didn't use my triple captainship, so I've still got that. And I don't know, did you use yours? It was tempting, but
I didn't, mate. I've just got a quick confession to make. I've uploaded the wrong slide. I'm going to need about 30 seconds. Apologies all. I'm just going to pause the stream and make sure that I've got the right ones up. We'll be back in about 30 seconds to a minute. Apologies again all. Let's try again, mate. I'm so sorry about
again,
that.
or,
No, we're all good. We're still live.
Okay.
Apologies, everyone in the chat. Thanks for sticking with us. Yeah, Rich. It all started when Rich said my lowest rank of 3.7. I looked at 3.3. For some reason, the slides were in the wrong file, but I've got your team up now, Rich. So we can laugh at it together now, anyway, because I was looking at the wrong. I was looking at the wrong one.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, great. Okay. Well, there's not much more to say about it. Obviously, I put a tweet out on budget day about wanting to actually looking forward to becoming a non-dom this week, as I own both Solanke and Calvert-Lewin, and I sincerely meant that. So they're very much on my mind to tick out of the team this week. So yeah, put your team up. I've had enough of looking at mine.
I've had a look at yours as well, mate. My one is 56 points. Red Arrow. I got off to an absolute stormer, mate. I had Chris Wood on Friday, which you can imagine. But clearly expected him to do okay, but to get a brace away was superb. So I was buzzing with that. Obviously had Mbeumo as well, especially with the last minute goal. It was absolutely flying. But other than that, it was a bit sad, really. I did actually make a transfer. I made a transfer of Saliba, which in hindsight was maybe a bit hasty. But as I mentioned last week, I did have Trent, Rico Lewis, and Gabriel, and you're never quite sure Rico Lewis. I think we're more sure now he's going to play this week, obviously because of their injuries. But you're never sure if he's going to start or not. So I wanted Ignorian anyway. So I did Saliba to Ignori because I do think that Gabriel is the better one to hold moving forward. Just because of his goal threat. But I did bench Ignori for 6 points as well. So. Yeah, poor week. Foden killed me. That was the one. So I brought in Foden ahead of Wolves away and Southampton at home, and he obviously started last week. He scored in the Champions League midweek as well. But yeah, nothing for him really killed me. So as usual, I've asked ChatGPT to do me a quick poem, just to hopefully entertain everyone. And game week 9. You lured me in with grace, started on fire thanks to Wood's brace. Mbeumo shone, a beacon bright and true, a spark of hope before the skies turned blue. But then, alas, the blanks rolled in, 7 in total. Where do I begin? While 8 Norwich points sat smug on the bench. My hopes sank low, my teeth did clench. No Palmer, no Salah, they torment my rank. Each week they strike. Each week I tank. Once top of the league, now fading in view. Oh, game week 9, what did you do? So not quite as painful as yours, Rich. I did score 5 more points than you, but yeah. But I still look at my team. I still look at my team every week, and I get excited by it. And I think, yes, I'm good. So I have got plans afoot for this week. But we've got some very interesting chat this week. We're going to chat a bit about Haaland and Salah, obviously. But firstly, just a quick look at Flag FC. So these are all not even all. These are just some of the current injuries that are happening around the Premier League at the moment. Just for those listening on the podcast version, you've got Alisson, red flagged until after. You've got Johnston. You've got a back 5 of Gabriel, who is looking maybe slightly more promising now. Van der Ven, Gvardiol, Akanji, and Dunk. We're not really sure on any of them, how fit or not they are. McNeil, Son, Eze, Savio, and Diego Jota, and João Pedro, who actually may be back this weekend. Chris Wood is flagged. We still don't know what's going on with him. And Solanke looked like he was about to vomit at the end of the match last night.
You just put Solanke out there because he's rubbish, have you?
Well, he is rubbish, and we just looked before the show. Didn't we, Rich? And in the last 3 game weeks, Dom Solanke has had 5 shots, 0 on target in the last 3 game weeks, which is very, very painful. Seems I think we both brought him in 3 weeks ago, so not good. Exactly. But yeah, as FPL Freddy says in the chat, that is a very, very decent team, and there are some highly owned players in there. So but it does give potentially rise to opportunity, Rich, to certain players, certain moves. It may accelerate a move. From Haaland, for example. So, Rich, is it time to pass the torch from Haaland to Salah this week? Very interested in your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it just could be the time to try and do something a little bit more aggressive, because patiently waiting for fixtures to come to these mediocre players and sitting on them while they've got a good fixture next week or a good fixture this week, it's just not resulting in the returns that we're used to expecting. And I'm sitting on 3 transfers. I have been for most of the last 4 or 5 weeks, and I'm not spending them. I'm sort of using one to tiptoe along, waiting to get Saka back maybe in game week 12 via a variety of moves. But I actually feel that this could be a week where if things go the way the community is suggesting, which is that Salah is the best captain for possibly the next 3 weeks, and he smashes it even further, and Haaland has a quiet game with all these injured players around him, could be looking at another massive red arrow. So it's a big call. I haven't actually decided to do it, but I can understand why people are getting itchy trigger fingers and swapping Haaland out for a few weeks. The problem is with it is I think you've got to commit to going without Haaland for like 7-8 weeks till around game week 18 when their fixtures pick up again. And that's like 2 months, isn't it? We're getting up towards Christmas with that amount of, and that's a lot of football without a doubt the highest scoring potential player in the game. So I'm not sure I want to do it. I think it's just a week where Salah has, the better fixture and is the better captain choice this week. And if you can get through that, it won't necessarily look too bad. So I'm not sure on it. And but there will be plenty of narratives that we hear in the next 24 hours that suggest that it's a good idea.
We'll have a bit of confirmation bias, don't we, Rich, on certain things. I think I'm quite I say I'm quite fortunate. I'm not fortunate. Sat at 3+ million. I don't have Palmer, which we'll touch on that now as well. Around, each of us haven't, as you mentioned earlier, hasn't got one key player. Like, otherwise there would be a template. Right? I don't think there is a template. But I can get to Salah without getting rid of Haaland, but that's because I don't own Palmer, so I'm feeling quite fortunate this week. I can do it for free. I think I'm gonna do it. I think there's a couple of things on Haaland. He was in superb form at the start of the season. Obviously his personal form and the team's forms have dropped off a touch, but he did record last week I think his second highest XG in a Man City shirt in, what was it, three seasons now. Obviously incredibly unfortunate. Even if he scored one more of those and we'd have had a 26-point captain instead of the 12, I think things would be a bit different as well. We know he's going to score goals, right? So, even over the next 8 weeks, he's going to score a minimum of 5 or 6 goals, and that's if he's in a drought. But the main thing for me, and especially those who have used their wild card, which is probably a lot of engaged managers now, I don't know the exact amount, but I probably probably 60-70% plus of people have used their wild card now, is how the goodness do you get him back if he does kick off without taking huge hits. Because we touched on a couple of weeks ago about we had all these all the transfers in hand. We were having 3 transfers, 4 transfers. Yours are dwindling, mine are dwindling. I'm using my remaining 2 frees this week. I'm sure a lot of people, I've actually been surprised actually looking in FPL chats and different forums that people are taking hits already. Even now, right? And this is without the injuries this week. This is without anything else that happens in the next week or two. Lots of people have sold Saka. They're going to want Saka back as well. And it's incredibly difficult to get, Haaland, Salah, Palmer, and Saka. I think we're all waiting for an injury to get the trifecta. And that doesn't include Son or kind of anyone else either, or Watkins. So that for me is the killer question. If your wild card is gone and you spread the money, you're going to be taking massive hits to get Haaland back if you want him back. And I think that for me is the key thing, which is the clincher that I won't get rid of him.
I think because you're in the fortunate position. Our teams have gone slightly different directions. When we started to come off the likes of Luis Diaz and stuff like that, and maybe think about selling Saka, I think you got Foden in, and you've still got that player at that kind of 9 million price point. I went down to Brennan Johnson at 6.6, and now I have got Palmer, but I haven't got anybody, above. I'm not going to sell Mbeumo, who's just established himself as the best value asset in the game, and so I need to find 6 6 point something million in order to get Salah in, and I'm just going to have to sell Haaland, even if it means taking a hit. There's no way I can really get to Salah without using all my transfers or taking a hit, and therefore it's a different question for me. You can do it in 2 moves, so I think it becomes a bit of a no-brainer for you this week to do it. You can always move down off Salah to Palmer easily, and come off him in 12 or whatever, but or when Liverpool play City, for instance, a nice time to come off him. So I think it's an easier one for you, but I don't have the player at that price point, so I'm just going to have to style it out, I think.
There's lots of love in the chat for getting rid of Haaland. Joseph Cusack says, I love the fear of Haaland owners of selling him. Main reason I'm having a great season because I've never owned him. An FPL lad. Without Haaland, you're going to have Salah, Saka, Palmer, and Buemo, and 3 strikers with good fixtures, which we'll look at the Haber wildcard team later. I mean, it looks absolutely pie hot.
Yeah.
FPL Friday says, I've just taken a -8 for Palmer and Salah as well. FPL Lad says, Foden looked like he's playing in his slippers this season. Yeah, I'm not really sure what's going on there. And yeah, lots of chat about, lack of City options. Only got 13 players, 13 senior first team players fit as well. So it's really interesting. Just a quick look at the fixtures. Obviously, Haaland's got Bournemouth away, Brighton away, Spurs at home, Liverpool away, Forest at home, Palace away. They're certainly not easy. That's for sure. A bit of a mixed bag.
They're not the worst.
Well, they never are for him.
Fixtures.
No, they never are for Haaland. That's the thing. Whereas Salah has got 3 or 4 of the next home. But even after that, I've been having a really good look. If you look at Salah's and Liverpool's long-term fixtures, they're really good from an attacking view anyway. They really, really are. They got 3 or 4. So they're home to Brighton, home to Villa, away to Bournemouth, even home to Man City. Salah has just got a double return against Chelsea and a single return against Arsenal. Newcastle away is nothing to be feared at all. Everton away, Fulham at home, Spurs away. From an attack, maybe from like a Trent view, maybe not the best, but from a Salah perspective, I mean, superb. So I suppose I just did. There's a couple of questions that have been playing on my mind, I suppose, Rich. A couple of sort of macro strategy questions around the whole of FPL at the moment. I suppose the first one you mentioned earlier that the traditional way to play of get a player in, give them the few game week, and whatever else, just doesn't seem to be working this season. It doesn't feel like for me it's been working for a couple of seasons. Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe it's just me on that one. But I suppose the question is, is it just that years ago that would have worked and we'd be getting away with it still because there wasn't the engagement and knowledge of FPL and the most optimal ways to play in the algorithms what there is now? Is it just that, or has the game sort of fundamentally improved that much? That's my first question. And my second question is, with these plethora of mid-price strikers, again, which has only been, to me anyway, apparent over the last 2 or 3 seasons. Years ago, all the strikers from the bottom 13 or 14 teams were basically shit, right? We used to laugh at them. There are so many fantastic options now. We're talking about Cunha, Jimenez, all these forwards, Chris Wood, all these forwards who are actually very good options in their own right now. Is that changing the way we're viewing the game as well, in terms of you can afford not to go without the massive superstar up front? So a bit of a long-winded couple of questions, Rich, but interested in your thoughts.
I mean, I think on the first one, I think if you look at a number of content creators, the number of us finding it pretty hard right now. We're not the only ones with shit ranks, right? We have got a lot of people. The last year's winner, Jonas, he's about 3 million. Mark Southern's one of the best players ever to play the game's about 3.5 million. We've got plenty. Luke, who comes on here, he's struggling, 2.8 million. We've got a lot of people who are put a lot of thought and effort into this game who are doing no better than the average man in the street. It's very easy to criticize our ranks, but just actually looking at what's happened, I actually think, to answer the second part of the question, it's the pricing of the game was so good this year that it's created a playing field where there's much more scope for variance, because you cannot have a team that has Saka, Palmer, Haaland, Salah in it like we all did last season. If you remember last season's teams, the midfields were identical. Everybody had Haaland all year.
It was Palmer,
We all
wasn't
had
it?
Palmer. All had Palmer for 4.9
Palmer
million.
ruined the game.
And that enabled you to pretty much have Saka was only priced at 8 million at the beginning of the season. We all had the ability to have this wonderful team, and everything just, was on. People were talking about swim lanes or motorway lanes where you got into a lane and everything just cruised along from week to week.
It was so boring, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. But the downside, if you get on the wrong side of variance, like I think we just noticed before we went on air that we both missed all 6 of Salah's hauls. We've owned Salah. I own Salah in game week 4 and 5, and his combined total for those 2 weeks was 8 points, I think. But he's had 6 hauls out of 9 weeks, and I've missed all of them. And so just that one player that you haven't owned for those. Ironically, I owned him for his 2 plum home fixtures.
Same.
And he didn't return during those fixtures. He returned during the other fixtures. So you could say, well, you should have owned Salah, you idiot. Why didn't you have him? He's the most consistent player in the game. Yeah, very good point. Good learn. And maybe I'll get him this week, and exactly the same thing will happen. Last time he had 2 home games, and he'll blank them. Let's see what happens. But it's just that if you're not on the right premium when he bangs, you're going to have a poor week, and that's it. So really, I don't think it's the algorithms, because if you look at the AI team and how that's performed, the Hub's AI team, if you look at the analytics crew who are out there, some of them will be listening. Generally speaking, they would agree with me. They're not having as good a season as they did last season.
Not.
It's not been going their way. All the algorithms said get Bruno Fernandes. He's had 1 return in the Premier League, all season. So it's not going the way of the predictors either. So I think it's variance, and I think it's down to the actual pricing being so bang on that it's created a much harder game, a much harder luck factor. But coming back to your point about strikers are getting more bonus points.
Yeah, that's right.
And therefore if they play for teams and they win 1-0, strikers like Wood and Cooney, they're just going to get the 3 bonus points, and you're getting that in for 6 million or less.
Yeah, exactly.
And that represents a huge value opportunity, which would lend itself to maybe when you combine that with Haaland's huge price, you could quite easily put 3, 6 or sub 6 strikers up the front, and then you've got 15 or the change from 15.4 million to spend everywhere else across the team. And this week looks like a really good week to consider that if you are on a wild card, or if you do want to move funds around.
Yeah, really, really interesting points there, Rich. Thank you. Really good. Do you know what is interesting this year as well? I think I'm the same as you. At this point in the season, I've never been this far low in the rankings. But strangely enough, I also can't remember a season, apart from the season I had a really good finish, like 2017-18, where I've enjoyed a season so much either. And I'm really enjoying it. And that seems crazy to me. But there's lots in the chat are saying as well. FPL Freddy, I'm enjoying the game more this year. Currently 3 million. Price is really good and loads of options. And last year he finished 23k, but he's enjoying it more this year. Big tips. He says what we're all thinking. Honestly, I'm in a backstroke at the moment. My squad is spot on and moves lined up perfect. It's crazy, isn't it? And Harry Dawson, the Analytics FC gang, are getting their bums smacked this year. The AI can't keep up and don't know whether to stick or twist. It's fun. And Paul Jones, you've got to pick your poison, stick with it. If you have Haaland, you probably have to forego 2 premium mids. Forego Haaland. He's the only premium you're missing. Food for thought. Danny McDonald says it's a season to be aggressive. Big tips. Brereton Diaz is the hill AI died. Fantastic. Just some really, really interesting thoughts that I'm really engaged with this show as well. I'm really, really enjoying it every week. I think it's because, I think you feel the same, Rich. We chatted just for a minute or two after we finished last week about our plights. But I don't think either of us have made a transfer this year that we've regretted, because we've made good transfers. So
everything's been a sensible move.
that's it.
Sitting on 3 free transfers. And look at the flags; they're all starting to come in. It's a question of how many of each of us dodged each week, but we know there's going to be a bunch more next week because there's just so much football being
Exactly
played.
that.
There's another round of
Oh, and
Champions
it's
League next
non-stop
week.
now, isn't it? Unbelievable.
Then we've got an international break, and these guys are playing twice a week. And if you look at City, I mean, their squad is, as you say, down to the bare bones, and it won't just be City; it'll be other players.
agree.
We've had 2 weeks of Saka gate. I was amazed Saka played in the League Cup last night. I was amazed he came on. They were winning 3-0.
Why would you
brought him on?
What is the thinking with that? Why not give him the night off? Say,
I can't believe it.
Go and get your slippers on, get in front of your 100-inch TV, and just watch and just have a relaxing evening. Why?
Exactly.
I just do not, and there's unless there's some hidden genius somewhere, why would they do that?
It's just weird. It's just an example of that competition. You get some City have won it so many times, but he does rotate the team, and they still manage to do well. I mean, they went out to Spurs last night. That was a good win for Spurs, but they were playing with a rotated team. Haaland did not come on the pitch even when they were behind, because Pep knows how important he is, and he hasn't got a backup striker really. Right. So Haaland was not coming on, and you could say, well, Arsenal have made a mistake there by bringing Salah on and risking more injury to him. When he doesn't need the minutes, he just needs a rest. So I was just amazed. But getting back to the point, I just think there's going to be more flags. We're going to need the transfers to optimize, and yeah, we just haven't had the luck, mate. Hopefully, it'll change.
Nikolai says, when there's so much more variance at play, it creates more emotion. And he said last year was just dull. I completely agree. Let's have a look. Oh, do you know what I was going to say, Rich? It's Halloween. I'm by myself in the house. Just had my first doorbell ring as well.
All right, you got to go out with some. No, you got to go out with some sweets, have you?
I can't. I've got to. I was thinking of running a competition to see how many times my doorbell is going to ring in the net before the end of the stream. So let us know in the chat how many more times you think my doorbell is going to ring, is going to chime. That's like it's on one so far in the next sort of 40 minutes or so.
All right, if you nip out and get pelted with eggs, then we'll
exactly.
We'll have a look.
Let's have a look at the fixtures for the next 4 game weeks. We see the first now of 2 blocks of fixtures actually, where teams have 3 of 4 at home. There's some really good fixture runs coming up for a few teams. United, top of the ticket for the next 4 game weeks. Home to Chelsea this week, then home to Leicester, away to home to Everton. I mean, that is a blinding little run, Rich. And I don't know if you watched the match last night, but playing with a bit of freedom all of a sudden unlocks these players. We'll have a chat in a minute about my United players. Wolves have got a spanking run. We talked about now for a couple of weeks. Home to Palace, home to Southampton, away to Fulham, home to Bournemouth. Brentford have got good fixtures as well. Away to Fulham, home to Bournemouth, away to Everton, home to Leicester. Liverpool got 3 of the next 4. We've been talking about them. Home to Brighton, home to Villa, away to Southampton, home to Man City. Spurs have still got good fixtures. We're going to talk about Dom Solanke in a bit. Home to Villa, home to Ipswich. Down the bottom at the moment, Villa are bottom. Man City, we've touched on them. They now play 3 of the next 4 away. Arsenal also have a tough little run. But yeah, we just talk about these teams. But I do want to say the next slide is don't be hasty, because once we pop out of the next international break from game week 12, things do turn on their head a touch, and it's going to be really interesting. But Rich, what's your thoughts on these coming 2 or 3 weeks before the break?
Yeah, they represent an opportunity, particularly if we've talked about Salah already for a lot, pile into Liverpool, or at least there's a temptation to sell Trent, for instance. I don't think if you've got Trent in your team, it's the right time to come off him. No, he's clearly got 3 good games to finally deliver the potential he's got. City are an interesting one because they've got away games and their resources are depleted. So you could argue that Rico Lewis, for instance, is a safe pick because he hasn't really got a backup player that could come on for him. However, I still think it's possible he might get benched this week with Pep. But yeah, I think City, you wouldn't be buying into City now unless it's to go for that Uber differential you shared with me Matthias Nunez, who's I think 4.9 mil,
4.9
pretty likely
million,
to
mate.
be getting some airtime over the next couple of weeks. So that there's an enabler. So yeah, there's still opportunity in these so-called fixture-proof sides. I think you wouldn't be buying Arsenal defenders, but I think it's okay to hold them during this time. United, my view on United is I think it's a bit early. I still think they're a bit of a wait and see. I mean, they did play well in the League Cup game, and
Against
it's
a
just
second string Leicester.
yeah, and it's just exactly they Leicester played the kids and yeah, the likes of Garnacho and Fernandez, got all those points that his owners would have been hoping for in the league. So I think with Chelsea at home this weekend, Chelsea is still a pretty good team,
Yeah,
and
it'll be a tougher
I would
task.
think they that's a tough one to call. So I'd wait and see if this new chap, what's his name again, the Portuguese
Amorim?
Amorim. Yeah, I mean I don't know a lot about him, but seems to be the guy coming in. I've seen some content this week from United fans about
Well, they would have.
potential lineups
I
under
mean,
him. I mean, it's also speculative. I have to say that it's a bit early to be calling that out.
well, everyone is always. Sorry, I was going to say it's the same with United fans. Just it's not at all. But everyone thought Ten Hag was the savior. It's just you never really know, right? I mean, you can try and line up a manager and a style of play with a certain team, but there's so many things that have to go right. So I think United fans are probably more relieved than anything that Ten Hag has finally gone. They weren't getting anywhere, right?
Yeah.
And they're excited for change. I think that's what it is. But to say that they feel this manager is going to do X, Y, and Z, heard it all before. Mate.
Yeah.
And being a Spurs fan, I've heard it all before with Conte and Mourinho and Espirito Santo and all these bosses that took us to the doldrums for the last 5 or 6 years. So I hadn't even heard. Well, I'd heard of him, but I didn't know anything about Ange Postecoglou, and he's come in and excited for the football. So I think United fans just want to handbrake off a little bit, a bit of excitement, a bit of structure, and hopefully Amorim can bring in that.
Exactly. I mean, I think the Wolves, all of a sudden, if you believe the content you've been hearing, Wolves are going to turn into Real Madrid this weekend for the next 10 weeks. In terms of the way people suddenly think a swing in fixtures is going to make all the difference. I mean, they haven't had a win yet, have they? So got to get that in perspective.
We're both bringing Cunha in, we? I don't know.
We're piling in, yeah, exactly, but.
Triple
does
Wolves.
that immediately mean they're going to win every game between now and Christmas? Of course it doesn't. They'll probably settle for a couple of 1-0s, wouldn't they? Be delighted with that. But yeah, it is a good run of fixtures. I mean, they've had the worst fixtures. They've played everybody who's any good in the first 10
it's
weeks.
being classed as officially classed as the hardest run of fixtures, the hardest start ever in Premier League history or something. So and I think in all fairness, they've done all right. I know they haven't won, right? But I think they've done all right. And I do think that we'll see them charge at the table. Triple wall. I need Hwang. I got to have Hwang. That's a retro moment for anyone listening.
Don't lose it. Don't lose it over Hwang.
What's the matter with triple walls and triple Bournemouth, mate? There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. Just a bit of doorbell chat. FPL lad says, turn my Ring doorbell off. Big Tip says 11 more times. They will all ring twice, Big Tip says. And Dave Hannigan, oops, how many eggs are hitting the car and house? If not answered, this is the thing. I'm gonna have to go outside in a bit. And thanks for everyone who's had a guess. I'll let you know. None more so far. So I haven't left the put. I'm a bit of a bar humbug when it comes to Halloween, Rich. Are you like a dresser upper?
No, not on Halloween anyway.
Not on Halloween.
No,
just on Saturday nights.
I'm actually going out to some comedy this evening, so hopefully there'll be some good theme. But yeah, no, I'm not going out trick or treating. I've left those days behind me a long time ago.
I saw some comedy on the weekend, Rich. I was looking at your FPL team on the weekend. So
exactly.
Give me a bit of comedy on the weekend. I've lost my train of thought now. Just
fixtures, mate.
Fixtures. I just want to touch on a couple of a couple of thoughts on the fixtures. So game week 12 looks like a period where we're gonna want probably Salah, Saka, Palmer, and Haaland, ideally, right? Which is obviously going to be ridiculously tough to do. But there are a few players who I do think we should keep an eye on. I don't want to do it as a spoiler alert really later for Fergie's punt, but obviously Mateus Nunes. The only problem with Nunes, I think he's a good short-term punt, but Grealish, Doku, these are all going to be back
They'll
soon,
come
right?
back,
So I
won't they?
think he's short-term. Casemiro is 4.8 million, and Mainu is out for a while. I think now for a few weeks now. He scored last weekend. Casemiro he scored a couple last night. I know one was an absolute scream. But how many times, Rich, especially in the big games, would you see him jump up in the area, a free kick or a corner? He'd power the head, just over on target, scores a couple as well. I do think the Casemiro 4.8 million is probably for me the best sub 5 million option at the moment for the next few weeks. Anyway, I think he's better than Diblin and Harry Winks and all this lot. At least you've got the chance. He's got the fixtures. He's got a goal in him as well. So I do think that he's a good shout. And under any new manager, if he can nail his place down, I think he's decent at 4.8 million.
Well, he speaks the language, doesn't he? So
this is it.
I mean, when I think of Casemiro, I don't actually, I can't verify this on air, but I think he's probably the most yellow carded and sent off midfielder there has been in the last couple of years, isn't he?
He was.
He was being labelled as a liability.
Yeah,
I mean, he's obviously got a huge capability, but he does get himself into trouble a lot, and must have been sent off 3 or 4 times in the last 2 seasons. So, I mean, he's not a priority for me. I still think we need to wait and see on him.
It depends on how you want to structure your team. Because if you do want to try to get to all these players, we need to think about who we're getting rid of, and that kind of takes us on to the next slide, as I mentioned, is don't be too hasty, because looking from Game Week 12 to Game Week 15, the kind of cheapies we've got in our teams at the moment, or some of us, me and you, Rich, I think have got in our teams, Morgan, Rogers, and Semenyo. Now, I was looking at Semenyo, who's 5.6, and I was thinking, I could get rid of him, I could downgrade him to, I don't know, Casemiro or a Diblin or a Winks and save myself a million, whatever else. But you know what? The fixtures turn quite hard in Game Week 12. Leicester go top of the ticker for the 4 game weeks. Villa have 3 at home in 4. They go home to Palace, away to Chelsea, home to Brentford, home to Southampton in 15, and then Bournemouth just below them go home to Brighton, away to Wolves, home to Spurs, away to Ipswich. So we're going to want to hold on to these players, and this is the point I'm trying to make. So about doing too hasty, it's going to be very easy at the moment, I think, for us to try and save and squeeze the odd million out now, whereas those 2 players in particular are going nowhere in my team. From my team, I think they're fabulous options for their price. We're going to need to look elsewhere, aren't we? Maybe the forward line, maybe the defensive line. But yeah, look.
I mean, I think personally, for having all 4 premiums will just be such a stretch. I know it probably can be physically done, but you'll be filling up your bench with 2 4 million defenders, probably Fabianski and another 4.0 keeper, and you'll be literally stretching it to the limit just to have those 4 players at the same time. They're good, but they're not that good. I mean, I think it's the right strategy is to work towards the 3 guys you want the most.
So. I think you're right.
Do the maths and do the calculations on the guy you're not going to own out of Palmer, Saka, Salah, Haaland, and then that's your hide behind the sofa moment when the one you don't own plays. And personally, I think based on this value conversation we've just had, my strategy until this week was always to go get Palmer, Haaland, and Saka, because I think Palmer and Saka can easily match Salah for points over the whole season. I mean, Saka has returned in every game. I think maybe he's blanked in 1. But he's 8 out of 9 weeks, or I think he missed one week, but he's so consistent. And at the moment, you've got to remember Arsenal don't have Odegaard back. He's coming back. He'll probably be back for the Chelsea game. And once Odegaard is back in that team, you'll suddenly see Arsenal.
Yeah, you're right. And the fixtures turn. I think from like game week 13, 14 onwards, they go on a superb run, which is why I want to hold on.
That will improve their defense as well, because they'll just control the ball, for such a higher percentage of the game. So I still think Saka is the right guy to go. And if the defense still is looking fragile, then I think it's not that they're not the top defense so far this season. Liverpool are the top defense. So this double up on Arsenal that many of us went for on Wildcard, I think that's questionable. I think one Arsenal defender is, including the keeper, is probably enough now,
Hello.
and that therefore that's perhaps where you would save a bit of money and change it around and maybe go evolve to a Havertz and Saka team, from game week 12. So those are my thoughts. I still think my three are going to be Haaland, Saka, Palmer. It's going to sound like last week's thinking, but that's still where I'm working
Salah's
towards.
my number one target at the moment.
Yeah.
For the next three, anyway. I think Salah's my number one. So it's really interesting that we're going the complete opposite end of the spectrum there.
As I say, I'm stymied on Salah. I've really got to rip it up to get him in, unless I sell. My only way to do it is to sell Haaland, and I'm just not sure I want to take that on.
I think if I was wildcarding now, I'd be going for Kanate instead of Trent. I think it's saving about 1.7 million or so.
Yeah, that's a good move, and I'm looking at manoeuvring into that where I've just about got enough money to come down to that 5.3 price point of Trent rather than a bargain basement guy, and still sneak Saka in. That's where these cheap forwards, can enable that.
Transfer targets this week. I've done them this week. Just a few to look at more than anything. Gone for Cunha. Salah's in there already. Obviously, we've got a couple of United chaps. Obviously, based on what's happened. Haaland and Bruno. Bruno's going to be interesting because definitely took the handbrake off last night. Played much more advanced, and like I say, maybe not for this week. Maybe, as you say, Rich, I think you're right. It's a wait and see this week. But he could be a player. Was he now 8.3, 8.2? He could be one who could have a lot of love over the next 3 weeks. And just hidden away at the back there, I've had to stick him in. But as we know, Diego Jota is out until after the break. Mentioned Liverpool's fixtures. They've now got 3 of the next 4 at home. The away game is against Southampton. So Darwin, I think he's pretty much nailed for, probably 80 plus minutes over the next 3.
It's not a bad drop off from Solanke to Darwin. You don't even need to have any money for it. You could bank $500,000. I think. Was he 7.2? Is he?
Yeah, he's mega cheap. Yeah, but I think he's 7.1. I want to say
he's 7.1. Yeah, I mean I might be
wrong.
That's got to be worth a punt if you can't get to Salah and you can literally go, well, I'll have Trent and Darwin then. That's a good way to cover those fixtures without busting the team up. And actually, you've got a massive differential there. What's his ownership?
I'll have a look now. I'll get to it now. But yeah, he should have been my punt. Actually, he's 7.1 million, and he's 2.2% owned. Jeez. He's going to be the number 9 of their home to Brighton, home to Bournemouth, away to Southampton over these next 3 games.
I tell you what, I might do that.
Yes, come on! I can't believe I
might do that. Well, I own him in sleeper. And I thought it was a bit of a waste of a pick, when I got him, because I thought, well, he's not starting. At the beginning of the season, he wasn't in the team, he wasn't featuring. But now, I'm looking good for the next 3 weeks.
Darwin in, mate. Well, we've predicted him 90, because there's no real competition here. Like Gakpo can maybe play, but that's only if Diaz has been in and out and stuff. So I think he plays Darwin. So yeah, mate, he could be the one. He could be your real 2.2% owned.
Yeah,
almost
gotta be worth
almost
it.
as good as Vissa last week. 2.3.
Yeah. I prefer that to Haaland, who's on the other side there. I think again, he's not even guaranteed to start. Is he,
I think he starts, but it's maybe a touch early on that one. Whereas you can go from this week with Darwin. You know he's going to start. Well, say he's probably 90% going to start, and just up front, got a fabulous assist against Arsenal last week. I got to be fair, the pass for Salah was superb. So no, he's a good one. Looking at predicted points for the next 4 game weeks, Haaland and Salah kind of tied up the top 30 odd points each. Palmer just behind with Saka 28, 27, Son 25. Isak is still up there. The AI loves Isak. But he was unlucky last week against Brighton. Scored on the weekend. Scored last night. Isak is still there. He's still the same player. He's still as good as he was game week 1 when he was in everyone's team. On penalties still. Wood is still there. Rich and Mbeumo, Foden, Cunha, Watkins 22, Raul 22, Havertz 21, Solanke 21. Vissa 21 for everyone who watched last week.
Vissa! I thought you were going to play your clip.
Yeah, no, I can't.
But,
I can't play it. I can't play in the middle of this. But it was a sweet moment. Doubling down and saying, "Clip this. Vissa's going to get a double return this game week." That was a pretty
got
three
returns in the end, didn't he?
Yeah. Did he get 3?
Well,
he got?
no, I think no. He had his assist. Sorry, he had his second return.
That's
his assist was upgraded to a goal, so he got a brace basically. Yeah, so would have been a lovely haul that. And I thought you owned him. I thought you was when you put that tweet out. I thought you actually had bought him, and I didn't buy him either, even though we were both really up on him. I gave Calvert-Lewin another week, and we all know what happened, don't we? So
he was 2.2% owned last week. This I wouldn't be surprised.
The only thing I'd say about Wissa is he feels like a homer. Do you know what I mean? Brentford they're not great defensively, and Fulham are very good. For instance, for this week, I just think that's one that probably can wait a week.
Yeah, I think last week was the week to bring him in. Yeah. Which I think is the same this week, for example. If you are going to go really, really different, for example, if you're going to go Darwin this week, I would do it this week now, while he's still got basically 0 ownership. No one's looking at him. Now's the time to go for him, rather than let him score his goal or whatever it is. So, I think that's kind of way to go this week. Get that rise rather than wait a week in it.
Yeah, because it's I think I had when I was having a chat with the ultras this week. I mean, we were starting to look at ownership, and actually these low ownership players. So I think Cunha's ownership, it is rising, but it's still under 5%, isn't it? It's still like 3 point something percent. If definitely. You get these low ownership players, the value of that haul, if they haul across your team, is going to be what lifts you up the ranks. Because if you start to look at the ownership of Salah, you're really only kind of joining safety in numbers. You're not going to get an advantage over 2/3, 3/4 of the game, because 2/3 of the game owns him.
He's 3.9% owned at the moment, Cunha. Yeah. This is the time. It's the exact same thing. It's time to do it now. So they're the predicted points next week game. Just a quick look at the Hub AI Game Week 10 Wildcard team. And surprisingly or unsurprisingly, spoiler alert, Haaland is not in it. So he's gone for Flecken. I think he's the only keeper who's played all the games and kept a clean sheet. But the fixtures just go on and on. The fixtures go on and on. Fabianski, and then it goes Trent, Gvardiol. Just need to check on his injury status. 8 Norrie. 8 Norrie as well. FPL Freddy. Yeah. Just commented on 8 Norrie. Actually, he's another one who is, who's very lowly owned, but is going to be very, very popular. 7.2% owned. 8 Norrie as well. Yeah. And then Vandenberg, who looks to have got a place nailed, and O'Shea. And then Mohamed Salah, Cole Palmer, Bukayo Saka, Brian Mbeumo, and Antoine Semenyo. That is the midfield of dreams. No. But also, look at this forward line. Cunha, Wood, and Raul Jimenez. What a team. Yeah. Premium defenders, premium midfield, 3 top strikers. Rich, it's hard to argue with that team, I think.
It's very hard to argue without that. I mean, it's interesting how Wood gets the nod over Wissa. But I guess, his performance so far this season has been brilliant, so I'm not surprised he makes the team. I mean, it's really strong, isn't it? And I think if you're wildcarding this week, it's a really good week to go against Haaland, put those 3 premiums into midfield and set it up that way. You've still got the 2 rocks either side of 8 Norrie with great fixtures. And the only thing I would change here really would be the keeper. I wouldn't carry on with the Brentford keeper. I think you could go Sanchez in there. Well, if you do or Sells, just to have a keeper from a better team who got a chance of keeping clean sheets, and have good fixtures over the medium term. I'd be interested as to why the AI still would pick Flecken there, but I guess it's doing the maths and
forward facing, mate. I suppose it's just it's just looking at kind of objectively without the burnt fingers that we've all got, maybe, and just looking at that. But you could downgrade Trent there, for example. We mentioned to Canate, that's 1.7. Watkins could come into that kind of forward line then, and stuff if you save some money elsewhere. So really like it. And I think if I was wildcarding now, I would be going without Haaland. It's the fact that you got to take him out to potentially put him back in, which are just transfers, hits, transfers, which is why it's
but
so
with
tough,
the disadvantage with that team is that you're looking at a 9 million plus jump to get Haaland back. You've got to generate 9.4 million of cash from around the team to get him back if you want him. That's a lot of money.
All the feedback from non-Haaland owners all season, and this includes when he banged in, was it back-to-back hat-tricks, is that they just haven't missed him. I know they had Salah who was matching him at that time, which was, it kind of obviously more than softened the blow, but,
I know, but the thing is that, for the same reason you can get to Haaland Salah off Foden this week. If you were to put someone like Nicholas Jackson in there at about the 8 million mark, you'll find it much easier to jump up to Haaland in 2 or 3 moves. So that's the only thing I'd look at, I think. But I do like the picks.
Have a quick look at the stats ahead of game week 10. The projected top goal scorers this week: Liverpool home to Brighton, 2.1. And Man City and Spurs both projected to score 1.75 goals. City, as we know, away to Bournemouth. Spurs at home to Aston Villa. Clean sheets. Man City, you've got the best chance of a clean sheet this week, 63%, followed by Arsenal, 53%. We're away to Newcastle. And then Liverpool, 41% chance of a clean sheet at home to Brighton there. So Liverpool and Man City, obviously mentioned twice, both got good fixtures. Spurs at home for the goals and Arsenal clean sheet away. Yeah, Spurs. I think Spurs have now moved to the second highest team XG, but Solanke, mate, no shots on target in the last 3 games. I mean, what goes on? You mentioned earlier about how you've been watching him, and you think he's just kind of not even looking to try and attack the goal.
He's putting a shift in. I mean, it's X involved, he's definitely running up and down and huffing and puffing and trying hard. But when just on eye test, it looks like he's not getting himself into the right place at the right time. When he does get the ball, his immediate instinctive behavior seems to be to pass it to someone else, and that's not the behavior you want in your number 9, is it? In your striker, you want selfishness. You want someone who just sits right. I got the ball. I'm gonna have a shot. You don't want the Semenyo type mentality, And if he was taking half a dozen shots every match, I think we'd be a bit more patient with him. But I think against Villa, who are a very good defence, I think they're statistically the second best defence this season. I'm not sure I can wait for that Ipswich game. Everyone's talking, hang on for the Ipswich game. Let another week go by. And it's all right if you're in the top 50k.
And Chris Wood and Cunha are banging in points left, right, and centre.
I just think if we've determined that he's not very good, then why waste another 2 weeks on him? And also Spurs. I mean, you're a Spurs supporter. They are at best an inconsistent team.
Oh, at best.
At the very best.
Absolutely. Spurs are the kind of team who will go and beat Man City midweek at home and then draw 0-0 against Ipswich 2 weeks later. Exactly. Or lose to Palace the week before. This is the exact thing with Spurs. Agree. So, I think I'm in agreement with you, Rich. And the stats back it up. In the last 3 games, he had 5 shots, 0 on target. I mean, that is not good for 7.5 midfielder when the options we've just talked about, including Darwin Núñez, are just there in front of us. So
exactly, mate. Yeah,
best captain.
Yeah, I mean,
go on, mate. Sorry.
Just on the stats. I mean, I think with the setup we've got here, I've got an Arsenal, Liverpool, and Man City defence. Including the keeper. Looks good, doesn't it? Although the ones who were best flagged for clean sheets, but let's see. That doesn't need changing.
Let's see, indeed. Best captain for the week. Fantasyfootballhub.co.uk. The poll: Salah. I haven't seen a poll this close in a long time, but Salah is top, 43.7% of the vote. Haaland second, 37.8%, and then Palmer and Mbeumo 5 to 6% there. And in terms of predicted points, very, very close again. Salah top again. You can get all these predicted points, everything you're seeing on your screen. Fantasyfootballhub.co.uk. Link in the description below. 7-day free trial if you're interested. Salah 8.1 points, Haaland 7.7, Palmer 7, Saka 6.7, and then all those strikers all underneath there.
Yeah,
But Rich, so it sounds like you're not going for Salah as a transfer in this week. So will you be captaining Haaland or Darwin?
If I got Salah in, and I've got some options to bring him in. One involves actually taking a hit, believe it or not.
A hit?
Yeah, and I'm not sure. I think Adam used to say, if you're bringing in a guy for a hit that you're going to captain, it's got to be worth considering in terms of the old way of playing. You could get away with taking a -4 if you're going to if you were going to captain the guy that you're striving to get. This is one of these. I mean, if you put that, I wouldn't probably bring Wood in now. I think his time of bringing him in is past. If you look at the ticker long term, they're bottom of it. Over a longer time frame. But you could go for a front line of Cunha, Jimenez, and Wissa, right? Because I'm still hot on Wissa. So Cunha, Jimenez, and Wissa, and two of those guys. Well, Wissa went up last night, I think it is, but he's still only 6 mil. And then that would allow me to do Semenyo to Salah and captain him for a -4. But that's a lot of structural setup, isn't it, for the Bucks? You're going to almost like effectively that wild card front line, and then got Palmer already. Got Salah plus 4 million, I think it is. So then I can bring Saka the following week and get to the triumvirate, I think you called it.
Yeah, not. You don't even. Well, I suppose you're going to want Semenyo back in 12, and I know we shouldn't base the whole. This is a massive transition of your team potentially, so we shouldn't be basing it on a cheap midfield option. But I'm not sure. It doesn't sound right to me, mate.
It doesn't. Well, that's why I haven't. It just occurred to me. I was thinking, okay, look, it's only only a -4 to get Salah in and sort out the forwards, kick Solanke out, kick Calvert-Lewin out, just get them out of my team. And I was joking about it on Twitter yesterday, but I don't want them.
Yeah.
But yeah, Calvert-Lewin has Southampton. Everyone will tell me to hold him, but I bet he doesn't do anything.
Eva Khan says, Rich taking a hit, call the doctor if it happens. And FPL Freddy also says, can you get away with a hit if you bring someone into captain for a -8? I like that's very
yeah.
Freddie,
Freddie sent me his team yesterday, nice. And he's taken a -8 to set up a similar structure. So
really good point from Big Lou as well. I do think we need to keep an eye on Ollie Watkins because Villa's fixtures from game week 12 or 13, they are spanking. So now Watkins, for example, is someone I wouldn't mind letting Haaland go for. So maybe that's my route. You're on game week 12 or 13. Haaland down to Watkins, frees the money for me to get to Palmer or wherever it is. Now that's different because I do class Watkins as a premium striking option when he's on those form, he's got those fixtures. So, but he says when Isak and Watkins bang, there'll be mass panic. Those cheap forwards only last so long. So
exactly. Stuff. It's all very good, isn't it? If they've been showing some temporary form, but they play. What Wolves, I think, are they still bottom or Southampton bottom? But they're very near the bottom of the league. They've got to turn it around just because of a fixture upturn. As I say, they're not going to turn into Real Madrid. Fulham are good at home, but in different away. Muniz is still lurking if Raul doesn't perform. Wissa's only just back from an injury. So it's flaky, isn't it? Even though it looks great this week. So free hit team, you'd have it. But
it's going to end up at that thing in 3 weeks' time and say, the fuck have I got? Am I captain how am I captain Emmanuel Dennis? Which is where we all were 2 or 3 seasons ago.
Wout Weghorst. Yeah, exactly. No, I know.
Well, we all ended up with.
Yeah, I know.
We all ended up with Wout Weghorst and Emmanuel Dennis in our team. How the hell did we end up here? Exactly that. I know. Brilliant. Fergie's a punt for game week 10. I'm a bit disappointed in myself because I did rush this morning. I am excited about the player I'm going for. He is, I don't even know what his ownership is, but it's going to be, I'm thinking it's going to be like 0.something% owned. I do think he's going to have a good few weeks. And I do think that, I'll see if I can find him now. I don't know if I can find him now. His ownership, but he's going to take advantage, very likely, of the next 2 to 3 weeks of some injuries to the team. Looks very good player. Whenever he plays, he is involved in the attack. He's only 4.9 million, and like I say, if you are looking to shift some money around, I think over the next 3 weeks, he could definitely provide some value, especially if you're wildcard. I think if you're wildcarding, I would have this person in my team for sure. So I am going to. I'll just read out a couple of the stats. So he's played 6 times this season, 2 assists so far, a couple of shots in the box, but he did score. Did he score on the weekend? Or last night, maybe.
I think he scored last night, didn't he?
He did, yeah. But I've gone for Matheus Nunes. He got an assist on the weekend, Rich, sorry. He got an assist on the weekend, scored last night. 4.9 million. Bournemouth away, Brighton away, Spurs at home. Until, Grealish, Doku, etc. come back. But I wish I had gone for Darwin Nunes. I think if I'd have put a bit more thought into it, I would have gone for Darwin, definitely. Just for the lols more than anything, but I think Nunes, Casemiro, I think, is due for a big few weeks as well, I would say, and Darwin Nunes. So they are probably 3 players who last week, the week before, that would have been the furthest away from my lips you could ever imagine. But I really do think that these players are worth a look, especially Nunes and Casemiro, in terms of sorting out your team structure. If you really need a cheap, really cheap play, if you want to get Haaland, Salah, and Palmer, and just an example, and you can go for Semenyo, you can go for Rodgers, and you can go for Nunes, for example. Or in your position, Rich, if you want to try and cover Salah for the next 2 or 3 games, Darwin is a very good option. I really think so. He's not going to match Salah, right? And we know that.
No.
But what he can do is provide a bit of cover, because if Liverpool run wild and win 5-0, he's going to get a couple of returns, right?
Well, Salah's got 6 goals and 5 assists. He could have a share of those assists, right? Salah scores a lot of his points through assisting from the right-hand side, and Darwin's there to mop them up. So it's definitely a thought. And again, with the ownership, it's tempting.
These
you could say it's a waste of a transfer. You'll have to move him on. I mean, yeah, you could do, but you could just have him for a couple of weeks and then move it. So I'll definitely think about it. I've got 3 transfers, so why not? It's not that much of a gamble.
I can't find Nunes in the fielders. Where is he?
It's because he's
called Mateus. That's why.
This is why you're 3.4 million. Yeah, thanks, Cesar.
He's not. 0.2.
We've been there before.
0.2% owns Matheus Nunes. Darwin is like next to nothing owned. So yeah, as is Casemiro. Thank you, Cesar. Really, really appreciate your feedback. It's hard to argue.
Throw myself off a bridge.
Exactly. Rich, we've got your team up now ahead of game week 10. Hang on, this must be a mistake. It's got Dominic Calvert-Lewin up front. This must be a retro. Oh no, it is the right one.
My Halloween.
It's Halloween. It's a scary looking front line.
It's not looking good. The 3 transfers will probably be used at some stage. I've got for those on the pod and not looking at YouTube, I've got Raya in goal. Trent stays in my team. Hopefully get some returns this week. Rico Lewis has to play according to Pep Guardiola, which a lot of people have jokingly says that means he'll be benched. Yeah. Going to play Gabriel. I think he's probably got a 50% chance of starting. So. I have Mikalenko on the bench as a backup, and I think he's got a perfectly good fixture against Southampton if he comes in. Got Palmer in, vice-captain this week, so he's got a good chance of returns against United. Brian Mbeumo, the form man at the moment. Great pickup at 7 million, so he's up to 7.7, probably be 7.8 by the weekend, so he's doing nice on the investment side. Brennan Johnson, I think out of the 2 Spurs players, I think he's the one I'll keep.
I think so.
For the Ipswich game. I think I've still got some cover there for that, which makes the sell on Solanke easier. And I will probably play Rodgers over Semenyo. I know the team you've got up there has got Semenyo starting just because of the predicted points, but quite fancy rested Rodgers against
same.
Spurs defence.
A Van de Venlis Spurs defence as well. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, exactly. Haaland captain at the moment, and at the moment Solanke and Calvert-Lewin. I will sell one of them. at least, and probably because of the Southampton fixture, Calvert-Lewin will survive another week. But I'm very, very tempted to just get the players I want here and not overthink it, and just get Wissa and Cunha.
Okay.
And Raul
I'm
will be the one
not
who
sure
misses out.
this is, mate. I think away to Fulham's a tough game. I would leave. I think you could leave this until next week. Away to Fulham is a hard game.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, Calvert-Lewin again. I mean, I don't know.
It's horrible.
He's looked. I don't know, mate. I don't know. I know he's had good.
Horrible.
He's had good XG, but
I know. Yes, well, him and Haaland, 1 goal, 5 XG over the last 2 weeks between them, and 1 goal. So underperformed by 500%. There we are.
Some Halloween pun off Colin Bugler. Dominic's kicking you in the ghoulies every week. A nice Halloween pun there. And British 87 says ghost strikers. Well, Dominic has certainly been a ghost for a goal. He hasn't a shot on target in the last 3 weeks. Big Lou, did Romero go off injured too? I did see that. I think it was more of like a precautionary thing at the end, but he should be fine. But yeah, without Van der Ven playing Dragusin, with Watkins rested, Rodgers rested, I can see Villa pulling Spurs about on the weekend. So I think Rodgers is a very good shout there. You'll recommend transfers for this week, Rich, if you're interested. Haaland out to Cunha, and Rodgers out for Mohamed Salah. Those are your recommended transfers for this week. My team, Flecken, the mighty Flecken in goal. I've got Trent, Gabriel. I've got Aït-Nouri, who obviously I brought in last week, so I'll definitely be starting him this week at home to Palace. At the moment, I've got Lewis on the bench. I need to have a bit of a think, maybe a bit of news on Gabriel, just for example. But I think Bournemouth have looked good going forward, so I'm not in a huge rush.
I think I'd start Lewis over Gabriel. I think
probably. I need to give that a thought. But I'll definitely be starting Trent. Definitely starting Aït-Nouri. Mbuemo, Johnson, Semenyo, and Rodgers. I think I'll be no, I won't. I'm going to bench Semenyo and play Rodgers same as you. Now I need to make up a bit of money to get Foden. So I'll be going Foden to Salah, but I'm 0.3 short. So my current thinking is probably Solanke to Cunha. And I'll play Wood at home to West Ham. Wood's home to West Ham, home to Newcastle. You are right, we say it's about these next two. Happy to have him for these next two, but after that away to Arsenal, and then I think their run stiffens quite a lot actually.
It does.
Solanke to Cunha for the next two. I think that's an excellent use of two transfers.
I'm pretty set. Gets you Haaland and Salah, the two, streets ahead premiums. They're almost in a class of their own. Those two. Yes, you've still got Palmer and Saka to wedge in, which you might find more difficult, but you've got the big two, and you've done it for free. So
I think what I might do come game week 12-ish, and again I haven't given this too much thought, and that's like a month away, right? There's there's 2 game weeks and an international break before all this as well. But Haaland to Watkins is on my mind after that, which will release 5 million or whatever else to allow me to get Palmer or Saka, and I've still got Trent. I could downgrade Trent and wherever else.
What's that week? Week 13 when they play Liverpool.
I think it might be 13. Yeah. I can't remember exactly. But again, a lot may like we say this all the time, and it's funny because every time I notice it a lot. Every time I update the slides each week, all the transfer targets, they always change. Everything changes, and it always makes me think, oh wow, we haven't thought about this player. Everything changes, so I do think trying to plan, very specifically too far forward is quite a dangerous play. Which is why I like to keep my plans quite loose. As in, I've got a loose way to Palmer, right? But again, injury can strike anyone at any time. Form. Absolutely. Anything, he may suddenly, I'm sure he won't, may suddenly start playing him on the right wing and he becomes anonymous for the next 2 games. You don't know. So, or Haaland could bang in back-to-back hat-tricks, which would be unsurprising. Yeah. So you just don't know, do you? So, but we will see. I
far prefer Salah with Haaland to Salah or Haaland. I think that's just sums it up in terms of the way I feel, and you can do that. and so that feels
You're doing that, mate.
feels great, really, because you can go anywhere off either of them. So do it, man.
I will.
Definitely.
My recommended transfers are Solanke to Raul Jimenez and Foden to Salah. Don't forget, you can get your own AI recommended transfers. Get a top link below. 7-day free trial. fantasyfootballhub.co.uk. Everything you need to win at fantasy football. And that is it for us for this week. Really enjoyed this episode, Rich. Thank you so much to everyone who joined us in the chat. Those who are going to watch it back. And those listening on the podcast version, your support, as usual, is very, very much appreciated. Rich, thank you so much. Oh, that's I don't know if you can hear that.
Is that a trick or treat?
My door's having an absolute hammer in. The problem is
pelted with flour.
The problem is I have to kind of whisper this. I'm right by the bay window, so they can probably hear me speaking. Probably think I'm being really ignorant, which I kind of am. There seems to be like it sounds like a rugby team out there. It's an absolute crowd. So yeah. Anyway,
you better go out there and throw some M&Ms at them or something.
I'll throw some eggs from the top window or something. Mate. I'll get rid of them. Anyway, Rich, thank you so much for joining me as usual. Where can people get hold of you?
At Rich Clarke FPL on Twitter.
My handle on Twitter is at FFH_Fergi. This podcast and video in the fantasy football. They're knocking again. They're not stopping. This podcast and video, I haven't got anything for them, mate. I'm going to have to give them like some sausage rolls or some like prawns out of my freezer or something. What
about some FPL tips? Will that make them go away?
I doubt it, mate. They'll probably throw them back at me. The shit tips I give. I'm trying to think of what I've got for them. I got nothing. This
signed photo of Dominic Calvert-Lewin, maybe.
Brilliant. This podcast and video with the Fantasy Football Hub YouTube channel, with the podcast versions available on all major podcast platforms. If you liked what you watched, please press the like button. I am trying to whisper, so I hope they go away soon. Remember to subscribe to the channel in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. If you enjoyed your listen, please rate the podcast and leave a comment. We will be back next week to preview Game Week 11. In the meantime, we hope you have a fantastic Game Week 10, and may all your arrows be green. Good night, all.